Councilman, if you go to page 11, go to public hearings and meeting. Go to item 82. There's a resolution ordering and calling an election to be held in the parish of East Baton Rouge, state of Louisiana, on November 18, 2017, for the purpose of authorizing the rededication of a portion of the proceeds of the 0.5% sales and use tax authorized to be levied by the parish of East Baton Rouge through December 31, 2030, remaining after satisfaction of all requirements in the general sales tax bond resolution dated February 8, 2006, including payment of bonds issued thereunder and satisfaction of coverage requirements thereunder, effective January 1, 2019, and thereafter to be used entirely and exclusively to provide funds to repair and improve existing public roads and widen and improve existing public roads within the parish of East Baton Rouge and the city of Baton Rouge and within the cities of Baker, Zachary, and Central on a priority basis as determined by the applicable governing authority, and for the purpose of authorizing levying collection of a 5 mils ad valorem tax on the dollar of assessed valuation on all property subject to taxation within the boundaries of the parish of East Baton Rouge for a period of 30 years, commencing with the tax collection for the year 2018 and annually thereafter, to and including the year 2047, for the purpose of providing funds after paying reasonable and necessary expenses of collecting and administering the tax to be used entirely for exclusively for the purpose of constructing new public roads within the parish of East Baton Rouge and the city of Baton Rouge described in the BTR plan dated September 13, 2017 within the cities of Baker, Zachary, and Central on a priority basis determined by the applicable governing authority, improving existing corridors with increased mobility, including signal synchronization, sidewalks, and cycling paths, constructing community enhancement road projects, including road repairs, ditches or drainage, lights, curves, and landscaping, and sidewalks within the parish of East Baton Rouge and the city of Baton Rouge and within the cities of Baker, Zachary, and Central on a priority basis as determined by the applicable governing authority, and improving the Advanced Traffic Management Center and authorizing the parish of East Baton Rouge, city of Baker, city of Zachary, and city of Central to fund proceeds of the ad valorem tax into bonds, making an application to Louisiana State Bond Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. Anyone wish to speak on item 82? This is a public hearing. We have who is opposed, who does not wish to speak is Tiffany Palmer. First person to come up to speak is Mr. Herb Gomez.
Good afternoon. I'm Herb Gomez of Greater Baton Rouge Association of Realtors, 14101 Perkins Road. We're here to speak in opposition to the property tax portion of it. The sales tax portion could be rededicated. We don't have a problem with that. Been paying it for a while. But if you have the property tax portion, which is going to be layered on top of an increase in sewer user fees, which is going to be layered on top of a council and aging tax and other property taxes that are coming up, we think that's just too much tax for the citizens of Baton Rouge. More to the point, it is the wrong tax for transportation. If you're going to fix transportation, then it should be the fuel tax you use to fix transportation. It should not be property taxes. I have a couple other people, members of the association, that will speak, and I think they're on your list. Thank you.
Next up is Ken Nakan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken Nakan, Louisiana AGC CEO, 666 North Street, downtown Baton Rouge. We represent contractors. Obviously, we are for this. We have several options here, two options really. We can do something or we can do nothing. And I just don't think we can afford to do nothing anymore. You look at what's going on around the state, and everything, economic development, is addressed by traffic, by infrastructure. And I just don't think we can afford as a community just to sit back and do nothing. I think we have to do something. So we obviously rise in support of this. Our contractors are ready to go to work. They're ready to get behind the vote. And let me say this from a citizen standpoint. I'm a citizen. I have a right to vote. Y'all should not take that right away from me by not putting that on the ballot. I have that right. Give me that right. If I'm not going to vote for it, I have that right to do that also. So give me that right to vote for it. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a public hearing. I want you to speak on this item. I'm sorry, Mr. Don. Come on up. I'm sorry.
I'm Donald Dunn. Johnson. I live at 3124 Jefferson Avenue, Baton Rouge. I think our priorities are misplaced. I really do. I'm simple-minded to the extent that public safety must come first. Economic development, I'm all for it. Road improvements, I'm all for it. But I've got to be safe first. And our community is not safe. So tax me to take care of the mental health issues that are fomenting all of this violent conduct in my neighborhood. That is what I want to be taxed for, because that's driving business away, is driving a miscommunication, a misconception of the fundamental issue of our parish. Are we safe here? Can we go about our business, and can we invite people in and they can go about their business and take care of their families and be safe? And I don't think so. We're more concerned with money and for development and money for roads, and we need that. We sure do. But we need to be safe first. So I want us to be prioritizing the public safety interests, our law enforcement, our courts, develop mental health courts, develop substance abuse centers, which is driving the fundamental relationships between each one of us. And we can't get along with each other because we're not focusing on what's undermining the whole fabric of Baton Rouge. That's my statement. I ask you to weigh in on it and determine what our priorities are, and then taxes accordingly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Dr. James Gilmore.
Good evening. James Gilmore, 5543 Cortez Drive. I am here to ask you all to broaden the conversation as it relates to this tax. Personally, I am still trying to decide whether I will vote for the tax, because as the judge, I do feel as if crime prevention is a priority in our parish. I do think that we can do a better job in providing better economic opportunities in North Baton Rouge and other areas of our parish. But if this does pass, and if you all do support this tax today and it does pass the voters, I ask that between now and the day of the election that you broaden the conversation, and as the gentleman said, realize that contractors are ready to work. And those contractors include DBEs, women and minorities who would love to have the opportunity to access these dollars to help build a transportation infrastructure in our parish. And so I ask that you all have a dialogue to create a DBE program specifically for this tax, so that we can ensure that local people are hired, and we can ensure that local contractors are hired, especially those who are disadvantaged businesses. And so that's the statement I'd like to bring to you all today, in hopes that we can have a longer and broader conversation about the economic impact of this tax. Thank you.
Jeffrey Welch.
Jeffrey Welsh, 11042 Shoreline Drive here in Baton Rouge. I also represent the Association of Realtors on the Political Action Committee. I can get behind what all of these speakers have said tonight. If this was about drainage, if it was about public safety, and those items were defined with certain benchmarks, we could certainly get behind something of that nature. As I understand the way that the proposal stands now, it's an imbalanced proposal. Not all drivers own property, and not all property owners drive. I believe that there's an imbalance in that aspect of the 5 mil property tax. I also believe that it is the wrong type of tax at the wrong time. That it needs to be a balanced proposal, and it needs to be directly tied. If it's going to be for road improvement, then it needs to be equally split or shared by those individuals that drive. Rents are already high. We know that rents will increase as a result of it. Property taxes are already in balance now as a result of the flood. Certain individuals continuing to sustain or have to sustain significant loss. And I believe that we do need to do something. We do need to address these roads, but I think that we need to do it in a different fashion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing in which to speak on this item.
Gary Chambers, 6663 Willow Springs. I sent you guys an open letter today that I wrote to the mayor. It's quite difficult for me to publicly oppose the mayor because I support her. I think she was the right person for the job, and I think that her heart is in the right place. I think that the desire to do something about traffic is a legitimate one and one that we do need to address. But I'd like us to come and build a plan that's sexy and attractive for the entire parish, something that gives people from every corner of this parish more. District 2 has no new road projects. District 7 has no new road projects. District 7 is the poorest district in the city. The poorest district in the city. And north of Florida, there's not a single road project. And I know CPEX is working on something, but if you're going to tax the people that live in District 7, give them something for their money. And so from my perspective, when we talk about equity, equity has got to be at the front of the conversation. We should have had conversations with minority business owners on the front side. CSRS was brought in on the front side. Other business owners should have been brought in on the front side to have real conversations about how we move forward. If we are going to move this parish forward, it starts with every single dollar that we spend. 99% of the money that this government gives goes to white-owned male businesses. 99%. That is astonishing. It is disgraceful. And yes, we can do something about it. And yes, I do believe that the mayor wants to do something about it. But I think we scrap this and we come back with something that's more comprehensive, something that meets the needs of everybody. And look, my district, District 5, we're getting stuff out of it. But I think in North Baton Rouge as a whole, $30 million in new projects out of $500 million is the short end of the stick again. When Mayor Holden brought forth the green light plan, North Baton Rouge got $45 million, 5%. The numbers don't make sense for voters in North Baton Rouge to even be brought this proposal. And as an African-American business owner, at what point do we get brought to the front of the line for the last 200 years that we've been at the back of the line? Period. So I just think that we need to be about equity 24/7. And if you guys are comfortable that 99% of the people that do business with the city look like the 7 of you that represent the Republican Party, something's wrong with that. Something's wrong with that. People pay into the system. The system should give back to them. You want to end the 72 murders that we've got in this city? 72 today. You want to do something about the 72 murders? Put some money in the hands of black entrepreneurs and let them hire young black men. Thank you.
There's a public hearing. Wants to speak on this item? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Council members. I'm sorry, Mayor. I apologize to you. I apologize, Mayor Broom. Dr. Lorenz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the council. In July, I proposed a solution to, as one journalist has described it, Baton Rouge's notoriously congested roadways. That plan that I proposed is the Better Transportation and Roads Plan, also known as BTR. We solicited input from you, council members, in the process, and I also made it a point to work to schedule community meetings in your districts. And I want to thank all of you all for your support in helping to organize those meetings. Now, this plan evolved after constant feedback from the citizens of this community that expressed a universal concern about traffic congestion in roads. It also evolved from the recommendations of 14 members of the Infrastructure, Transportation, and Mobility Transition Committee and the April Transportation Summit focused on transportation. The truth is, most of us have experienced the bumpy streets or the attempt to make what should normally be a 20-minute trip into a 40 or 45-minute trip across town. Let me just say that I am relentless in the pursuit to get Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish to the next level. And I want to enhance the quality of life for every citizen in this city and parish. And this BTR plan is just one of the ways that we get there. Simply put, the BTR plan does not just improve or expand our roads. It promotes better traffic management, increases mobility throughout the parish, and ultimately, it means that you and I have more time to be with our families as opposed to sitting in traffic. But in addition, the infrastructure projects like this also have the potential to pay off economically, which was brought up earlier, in the private sector investment and job growth for citizens throughout this city and parish. We all know also that commerce requires good roads and transportation access. Lastly, if we continue to dodge the issues around transportation and traffic congestion that moves us forward in our city and parish, millennials will choose other cities to live in, companies will choose other cities to locate, and we will not reach our full potential as a city and parish. I certainly hear the concerns surrounding public safety. I hear the concerns surrounding flood recovery. And I am of the belief as a leader that we have to work on these priorities simultaneously. One does not exempt the other. Finally, let me say that, moments of change and decisions are often not comfortable, and sometimes we find ourselves in disagreement. We've learned that throughout history. But my ask to you, council members, tonight is a very simple one. It's not one of whether we agree on the tax or not agree. I'm merely asking that you allow this item to be put on the November ballot, which will demonstrate respect for the citizens of this parish and giving them the right to choose. I want to thank you for your indulgence, and my team and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, ma'am. Council members, we have a motion. You got any questions? We can. Councilman Cole.
Dr. Lorenz, how flexible is the plan at this current stage? Or Mayor Broom, or Dr. Lorenz, or whichever one of you want to take that. How flexible is the plan for this reason? I do recognize that there are a number of concerns about the projects that are on the list, and how flexible is it between now and November if this were to be placed on the ballot?
Certainly, I think our goal and objective was to try to look at the projects that would make the most benefit, and from a traffic, but mobility, safety, and when we talk about safety projects, we had included a lot of those roadways that not necessarily was going to enhance traffic, but it would also help address some of the safety concerns that residents have made out in the parish when we're through our meetings. Can it be changed? I would tell you that certainly we can always look at that, but the negative side to that, and I'll just be honest, I've been involved in many of these like that. When we start making a bunch of changes on plans and people forget what was in the plan originally, what was approved, and I think that may even be a legal question that I probably would let our attorney address from that perspective. But can it be? Yes, sir. We could, but it would not be something, quite frankly, I think it opens up the doors for other issues that people say, well, I thought I was in, nobody told me it got taken out, and that's what happens in this particular situation. We bring it to you, then it is set, and that way there can't be any changes. So if people are interested in what that project is or what those projects are, then they would see that, and then they make that decision whether it was sufficient to them or not. Can it? Yes, sir. I would just tell you it may be something that we may want to really think about first.
Thank you.
Councilman Welch.
Yes, sir.
One of my biggest problems, you know this already, we've had a lot of discussion about this. One, kudos to having the meetings, but in every one of the meetings that I've heard about, drainage is top priority with this parish. Roads are top priority. There's a lot of top priorities. The biggest problem I have is that we just went out with an RFP for our stormwater management plan.
RFQ, sir.
RFQ,
Yes,
RFP.
I just want to make sure we get it straight.
Either way, we went out and asked somebody to tell us what is going on with our lake so we can go and ask FEMA. FEMA is still going to ask for a reimbursement from the parish from whatever they decide, that either a hazard mitigation or whatever. So we potentially could be coming back in 2 years or so and asking for another tax because we can't afford to do the drainage as well. So we're going to ask for a tax now, and we're going to ask for a tax later, and it's just it's not a good, for me. It also does this rededication of that half-cent sales tax, which was Green Light 1. We didn't finish the projects that we said we were going to finish in Green Light 1. And so what this is, you want to talk about flexibility? Well, apparently we can come back in less than half the time that we said that we were going to fix these other roads and change those roads up. I have a huge problem with that, just as... so, in any event, this is the half-cent sales tax originally when we did Green Light 1 and when we did Green Light 2. It was to make roads better. But what that did is it took all the available money to fix the roads that we have, that we are the bumpy roads, the ones that we still have gravel roads, we still have problems with bridges, we still have all of those things. And this doesn't fix any of that. We've never had just straight up an infrastructure where it's something that we can all do something about. And one of the problems that I have with this project as well is it puts a $30 million hole in the sense of it's a question mark that it's for a regional plan that we don't know what that plan is going to be. We're green lighting something that, quite honestly, we don't really know what it's going to look like at the end of it, and we don't know whether or not it's something we can, support or not support. I have a.
I'll answer. Okay,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
First, let me start with your drainage question that you asked about, and I won't disagree with your comments about it. Drainage is an important issue, and on these projects, certainly we have to look at all the components to address drainage and make sure it doesn't create problems upstream but downstream on these improvements. The reason we started the stormwater...
But Fred, we can't, but you said that the upstream, downstream of these projects, I get that, but that doesn't fix the drainage. You just want to make sure that it doesn't impact them.
Well, and if we're not doing that, shame on us, because we should be
doing that. We're not doing that. I mean...
again, I was just going to tell you from the stormwater management plan, which we went out to get to RQs, we're meeting to try to come up with that decision on a couple of the questions you asked. First off, I think we need to get a technical evaluation of what our drainage system is doing, because we have a lot of questions of what's being asked, and without having that technical data to support what we want to do, I think that's wrong on all of our behalf, because it's easy to say, let's go clean this, and don't...
I'm not to interrupt you, Fred, but I mean, let's talk about the road tax. I know we're getting into drainage and we're getting kind of off the ball. I mean, let's kind of keep it.
I assure you that we're going to look at the drainage, and we will be back to this council to tell you what we're going to do, how we're going to do it in phases. So everything we do, you will know that. As far as traffic, I understand your issues about why this road wasn't done or it was on the list. I think you and I have talked about that.
Right.
They were also supposed to, and I wasn't here.
Right.
So, and
neither was
but
I.
Again, I am aware of the issue because I went and checked on those issues. But apparently, the two cities had an issue, a difference agreement on one didn't want to move their utilities. One of them thought we should be doing, and it never got done.
But
it's not that we couldn't do it.
The problem that I run in with that is this: is that when we first asked the voters during Green Light 1, which is a rededication of what we're asking for right now, we told them that those projects would be done. Those projects would be done. We're saying the same thing in this plan right here, that you're saying that these projects will be done. But apparently, that's not necessarily true. If we don't finish what we said we were going to do from originally, we can't go and say that we're going to do these too.
And I certainly don't want to disagree with you on that particular issue, because our goal and objective, if you look in the plan, that's that we show those projects showing funded, because we don't want people to say they wasn't included. And the only reason I would say from the queue, based on that, is because the two cities couldn't agree. So I can put it on the list, but if they don't move the utilities, then it doesn't get done.
I understand.
Trey, you want your additional time?
I'm done. Thank you, Fred.
Well, I want to comment about the regional.
I'm going to ask you the same thing, Fred.
Okay, never mind.
Go ahead, Councilman Lou's going.
Okay, yes, sir.
Because I had questions about, so the half-cent sales tax that we're rededicating is strictly 100% green light one?
It was part of the original pothole tax, and what it was, when they upgraded it, they borrowed money on that sales tax to advance the construction for the next phase of projects that was done. I don't know if that was phase of Green Light 1 or not. I think
Okay.
that's what it was.
So I think somebody behind you can answer my question, or maybe I asked it wrong, but where is this money, what are we redirected? Bond council?
I think, Councilman, if I understand, it's the existing half-cent sales tax.
For green light one?
Yes, that's what it was associated with.
Okay, and thanks, I appreciate it. And either Fred or Jim, how many of the green light one roads have not been completed?
I think, from my knowledge, based on what I've been told, I only know of one, and I think that was the one that the councilman indicated. Because the ones that were in 2 or that we are currently doing, they've been rolled into this plan also.
Okay, but so because I have to get this straight in my mind,
Yes.
let's talk about one first. And I might use my second minute if that's okay. So one, we only have one road left for that half.
To my knowledge, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and
It's not a bunch though, right?
No, sir, not.
Okay. And 2 is another half-cent, green light 2 is another half-cent sales tax that goes to how long?
To
20,
what, Marshall, you? I don't know. What, 2030? I don't know that.
There's only one. There's only one tax.
I thought we had green light 1 and green light 2.
Yeah, you do.
Well, green light one being the original tax for
Right.
potholes.
And then it was renewed.
Okay, and yes, it's renewed to December 31, 2030.
Okay. For green light 1. If I can't get it straight in my mind,
Well,
I don't understand
it's-
how you guys.
when that was approved in 2000, I believe 2005. That I'm not sure if that was green.
Maybe
light.
Marcia or somebody from finance. She looks thrilled too.
It's just only been changed.
It's the same half cent. It's just changed over time.
We rededicated it to now what we call green light 2.
Well, green light 2 did not pass.
I understand, but okay.
So it's green light 1 is the current half cent is dedicated to what we know as green light 1, let's call it.
Okay, but the ones that we had on the list for green light 2 are in the queue?
Well, let me just say this. Green Light 2 didn't pass, but there are some in there and some are not. But we wanted to be sure that at least the ones that were in Green Light 1 were still in part of the package. Because if you tell people they're going to be there, we want to try to at least make sure they get done. So, and it's still the same half-cent sales tax.
I
Nothing is
understand,
changing it.
but we're not.
We can't copy the same book of Green Light 2.
Nobody's here from CSRS, huh?
Yes.
Who don't you want?
Gary Chambers. I'm just joking, Gary. I'm just joking, man.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Jonathan Charbonnet with CSRS.
So, according to Fred, we only had the green light program.
One project remaining?
Correct.
No, we have a number of projects remaining. I'll get that exact number for you. Most of those projects have rolled over into the new plan. The Hoopers, the old Hammonds, those are in the BTR plan. The only ones that were pulled off were McHugh Road, Jones Creek Segment 3.
South Choctaw.
Those are the two that have been pulled off that are not included, that were part of the original
If this-
Green Light plan that are not in the
If
BTR.
this tax doesn't go to the ballot, we have in place a half-cent sales tax to 2013 to
Correct.
fund
2030, correct?
2030. I'm sorry.
Yes.
To fund construction of roads,
Correct.
and there's a long list of those roads.
Yes, sir.
And
So
those
if this-
roads are also included in this new BTR plan,
Yes, sir.
in addition to some other ones.
Yes, sir.
how many new roads would be built with the new tax if it passed?
I don't have to go back and look at the list.
Fred?
Yes. I just want to mention, under the plan here, the goal and objective is to half-cent sales tax, if it gets rededicated or if the voters approve, that would go strictly for just rehabbing of the streets. Now, we still owe some bonds, payment of bonds for the next couple of years, but then after that, we'll go totally to that. All these projects would go under that $5 million component if approved by the voters.
Okay. So, let me try and get this straight.
Yes, sir.
If the tax doesn't go on the ballot, we still have in place a half-cent sales tax to do the revamped Green Light Road program. We just have to pay as we go, as we all know.
That would be correct. We had the funding done into 2030, but the number of projects would certainly, it will take some time to get them done because of the amount of money. But yes, sir.
And
we're finishing it to 2030 regardless.
I'm sure some expert has figured out what we can do with that revenue stream to 2030, right? And how many of those under our plan will we complete?
Under the existing Green Light plan?
Yes, sir.
We'll complete all the projects as forecasted through 2030 with pay-as-you-go funding. So if nothing happens, Green Light...
But you can't tell me tonight what are the new ones that we would need for the new tax, the new roads.
I'm not sure I understand.
We have a tax in place that's going to finish all the roads under the Green Light plan through 2030, but y'all have added roads to that program for this new tax.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to find out. Which ones are those? How many are there?
There would be none. We wouldn't be able to add any of the new roads to that project because the funding wouldn't be in place.
I know, but if this tax passes, what are the new ones?
Well, it would be the roads that are in this booklet, including, if you look on the list, it shows the ones that are funded. Those are ones that are being carried forward. All the others are new projects that would be recommended for the voters.
Okay, so everything funded in the BTR plan is already funded.
The ones
regardless
that show
of
funded,
this tax.
The ones that show funded. I don't want to imply that all these, because they're not. It's just the ones you'll see on the list. It says funding on that list for the projects that we have right now that are currently still funded under the program, under the existing half-cent sales tax. The other projects that don't show that will be new projects that we're asking for the voters to consider or the council to approve to go to the voters.
Right. So according to this, that's only 4 roads for a tax that goes to 2030 for a half-cent sales tax.
Well, remember, part of that half-cent sales tax also goes for rehab. So we're using rehab money. We get about 20
but it's
million.
like 5%, right?
Well, but
27% is rehab?
Yes.
And 5% is for beautification?
Yes, or 3%.
3%?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks.
Is that clear?
Not really, but...
You finished? Yeah. No. Councilman Welch, you're up to bat.
All right, of course, the last 5 minutes. But according to the Green Light online projects, and all I'm going by is what says there's these that have completed on them, but there's these that have not completed. So what's not completed, according to the website, now you can tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm right about this, but starting at the top, it says Central Thruway Phase 2, Highland Burbank Connector, Hooper Road Segment 1, Hooper Road Segment 2, Jones Creek Road Extension Segment 1, McHugh Road, Mount Pleasant Zachary Road, Nicholson Drive at Brightside Lane, Wesley, Nicholson Drive, Brightside to Gurrier. I don't know how to say that. I'm thinking that's right. Old Hammond Highway Segment 2, Old Hammond Highway Segment 1, East, Old Hammond, right. Those are all, but those, well, and then Old Hammond Highway Segment 1 improvements, Old Hammond Highway Segment 1 West improvements, Poulat Boulevard, and Perkins Road section, segment 1. Now, all of those would still have to be done with the Green Light our green light money, because there's not a green light too, so green light money would have to finish those projects just like when people voted on it originally back in 2006 or 2005. A lot of those projects are in here, but again, we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects that say funded. All the other projects say how much they're going to estimated cost. So we can get back into this situation in 15 years, just like we are here, and somebody say, "Hey, we need to do BTR2 on this, and let's rededicate and not finish the projects that say funded in here."
Well, I'm sorry.
No, and all I'm saying is that I think that sets a horrible precedent whenever we go and we tell people they're going to vote on something, we give them a list of projects, whether it was overpromised or underpromised or however it was. If we say we're going to do something, regardless if this is before my time, but I'm still saying that vote that occurred back in 2005 should have all the weight that it had back then when voters voted then. Then to come back and ask for voters to say, okay, well, let's do something different. I have a hard time with that. So, and to the point with we should just allow the voters to vote on it, the problem I have, if I don't believe in it, and I also think that it doesn't give the weight of what voters voted on originally, I can, in good conscience, go to the voters again and say, just wash that away. Forget about that. Let's do something different.
Well, I think you see, Councilman, the list. That's why these projects are back on the list, and because they need to be. And if you look, the ones you mentioned, like Old Hammond Highway and some of these state highways, you'll also see in the side category where we also got to seek state funding. And every year we have to go to CRPC to request funding for state funds, and we don't. And there's other parishes that we have to challenge up against to be able to get funds to get these projects underway. That's why most of these projects are done in phases. We'll never have enough money to actually do all these projects at one time. And let me just say this, so you know, because I would love to ask for the taxpayers to pay it all. But I don't think that's right either, because they paid state taxes and we paid federal taxes. So we ought to be able to get an opportunity to seek those funds to help enhance these projects. Right. That's what we're doing.
And I think that what we do is that we give people the real idea of what actually will be funded out of something, and not a laundry list of programs for them to vote on it that they never get. That's where we are. So with that, that's...
All right.
Councilwoman Green?
Just have a quick question. Chandler spoke, Councilman Luke spoke about the projects from the Green Light 2 that might have been synced into this new plan. But I remember when you guys came to my community meeting and you had a document that indicated that there's a difference. It was twofold, BTR and Green Light project, and the differences. And besides the projects themselves, what were those major differences that you highlighted? I think, and I don't have it in front of me, but was there, instead of focusing on the roadways themselves, there was additional things that you were focusing on?
Yes, and I'll be glad to go over that if that's,
just give me a couple of those items.
A lot of this has to do with connectivity, and people can say that part of traffic problems is that when you widen roadways and when you dump off somebody from a 4-lane to a 2-lane, most people say, who was so smart about that?
So what are the things that this project will do to connect it?
I think
besides build roads.
Right.
What are you doing? Traffic synchronization?
I think the difference, I think you're going to see mobilization, which is a key factor of this. Safety is an issue, but traffic signalization, we're spending $40 million to try, or requesting to spend $40 million to enhance our traffic signals, but also to provide the software at our Traffic Events Management Center that will give us the flexibility to move traffic better throughout our town. But with that being said, we also need some road improvements, but we're also looking at corridors where we can enhance public safety, and I think that's important.
What kind of traffic upgrades will you be doing?
Well, most of them will be signal upgrades will provide us opportunity to manage the actual control of the traffic at an intersection at the center.
We have some flexibility to do that, but not. This program will allow us pretty much to do whatever we need to do at every location. 400 locations, we'll be able to have somewhere else to be able to manage traffic during those events.
What about outside of Baton Rouge? We always talk about our citizens are congested, but also regionally we are having some issues. So is that going to help with, when you say connectivity?
Most of our regional problems are on the interstate. Now, there
So
again.
is this plan going to address the regional
It will
concerns
enhance it, yes, ma'am. In fact, models that I think CRPC will provide to us will show you that it does provide less congestion time over a period of time. You have to build the improvements, then certainly your congestion levels will decrease.
Okay. And just this is just a statement to the council members that are maybe wavering or not wavering. The focus today, a lot of conversation was about the Green Light 1, Green Light 2. Are we using the same streets to enhance? But there are a number of issues with, for me, traffic synchronization that I know that the CAT department is definitely focusing on, that would be able to be put together from their standpoint and with this particular project. Also, when we talk about we're connecting and enhancing the ability for outside people to come through regionally, that's my concern, and so that we can have better mobility in our city for our citizens. And it's not about opposing the mayor or opposing or putting a huge burden on taxpayers or property owners. It's about ensuring that we move progress with our city, and so and progress means that we're gonna have to address the traffic issues. And so as we are thinking about how we're going to vote, I hope that we take into account. Like Gary even said, I have a very few projects in my district, and that was a concern that I made to Fred from the jump. But I do believe that we need to do something to move this forward. So I hope that we can support this project.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Hudson.
Yeah, Fred, you and I talked a little bit about one of the projects that was in Greenlight 1 that didn't end up making the cut in this plan, and I know you had talked about the fact that that project had never really gotten off the ground. There hadn't been much work done on it. But as I talked to some of my predecessors, I'm hearing from them and from other people in the community that it was still a very important project. So I'm hoping maybe you or the folks from CSRS can speak to how that decision came about to not do Jones Creek Road Phase 3. Is there data that suggests that the project was no longer necessary, or what happened to come to that decision?
Well, from talking with CSRS, and because while it was a project, it's a good project. There are a lot of projects in that community that I can take this list and pick another group and have just as good of a list as we are today. That's how far behind we are with our traffic issues. Now, to address your question, is that a needed project? It could be, but we also looked at some other roads in your area that we thought were more from a traffic congestion issue, advanced traffic to certain places, and one of them is the the Tiger Bend Road to extend it out to Antioch. This one we looked at, and while most people say, well, where's Hoosier 2 Road? Well, you know what? Ask the people who live on it. Then there's probably about 12 to 15,000 cars that travel in a day, and they have serious traffic issues there. But they also have, they also have safety concerns because there are many accidents on that road that we have to deal with every day. And to me, that was what took jurisdiction over there, because of connecting of a roadway where development has happened. Don't know if it's going to happen anymore, but what's there right now, we can't handle. The level of capacity is not acceptable. So that's why it took that place. There's a road that exists. It's a lot cheaper to build what we need to do with that than building a new road and have to go through that process. Is that project, the extension of Jones Creek, necessary? Yes, sir. I'm not going to tell you it's not. But this one took priority because of the traffic that already exists on it and the fact of the accidents and the safety issues that we had in regards to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Councilwoman Collins Lewis.
There have been some questions and some concerns, and this is probably not more of a project, but in terms of DBE participation on these projects, I know it may be a bit premature in putting the horse before the cart, but I know that Tyra and some of the other council members in 2008, 9, whenever it was, put a DBE policy in place that really never has been implemented because we were told that there needed to be a study on the policy to have it implemented, and the administration never committed the money to have the study. But there is concern, and there has been concern for many years about DBE participation around this parish in terms of projects in any significant way. So I see the mayor coming up. And I know that you can't, we don't know if this, first of all, is going to pass. That's number one. Even if we decide to send it to voters, we don't know if it's going to pass. And I don't know how much of a commitment we could make in terms of putting something in writing, but I would like for the administration to look at the DBE policy that was put in place, that is on the books, where we were asking for a minimum of 25% participation, or at least the effort to include DBEs up to 25%, if not more. So really want to be able to have some type of a commitment. This is probably going to be way beyond our time when some of these projects are led, but want to make sure that that is something that we see as a result of this proposal, if it is to pass.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Let me just say this as it relates to DBEs. One of my areas of focus has been equity in business, and I've been saying that since we were at the theater for the inauguration. Contrary to popular belief, discussions around DBEs as it relates to contractors happens in the RFP process. That does not happen on the front end. Right now, we don't even have it. Our goal is to get it on the ballot. Mm-hmm. Once you put out an RFP, that is when discussions around DBEs take place. But in addition to DBEs, I mentioned the potential of job growth. One of the conversations that I had with the AFL-CIO was the potential of doing apprenticeship programs. That way, people are trained and they get training, so not only could they be a part of this particular big program, but then they can go out afterwards and have sustainable income because they now have a skill that they've been trained on through an apprenticeship process. So there are a lot of opportunities, but none of these opportunities will come to fruition if we don't get it on the ballot.
Okay. Can I, not Marsha, is Leanne in the room? And I'm not sure if we can do this in terms of the policy that's already on the books, but when we are putting out these requests, and again, we're ifing a whole lot here tonight, but if this is to pass and if the contracts are to be let, is there any way we can put a requirement in any of that?
The study that you were referring to is called a disparity study,
right.
And we made that clear the last time this came up. It's a fairly expensive and time-consuming process, but it can be done.
I think how many years has it been, Tara? I think by now it could have been done, but there was no commitment to put the
prior to imposing DBE requirements on bidders, this type of program will involve RFQs, RFPs, and bids. To include a DBE requirement for bids, you must do a disparity study.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask for a commitment for a disparity study. Jim? I just think that, Tara, do you remember the year? What was the year? 2009 or 10 when we put
it was August 2009.
Can I have my other 5 minutes, please? Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, it was August 2009.
Okay, so we have had this policy on the books and have been told constantly that we had to have a disparity study, but there was no commitment from the administration. And I know we're talking budget right now, but it doesn't make sense to continue to have something on the books that cannot be implemented, and we're still talking about 1% or 2% DBE participation within this parish. It's past time. it is past time. If a disparity study, I don't know what the cost is going to be. I'm not going to even pretend like I do. I see the mayor come on back up, Mayor. Well, we were told, this was years ago, we were told that it would cost around $200,000 to do a disparity study. That's what we were told years ago. I have no idea if that's the case or not. But in order, if it's going to help us in some way, require DBEs to be included, then I think we have to do a disparity study if that's going to happen at some point.
I don't have a problem with doing a disparity study. I don't have a problem in bringing the cost of a disparity study to the members of the council and seeking your support on a disparity study. I have no problem with that. I do think that I need to have some additional legal counsel discussions surrounding DBEs and contractors, because I'm not absolutely assured that you have to have a disparity study to talk to contractors about inclusiveness.
No, I don't think,
of
I'm
DBEs.
not, and I don't think we would have to, where Leanne go, to talk to them, but we're what we want to see, I guess.
You just need a disparity study for a mandate
That's what we
participation.
want, because that's what we want. Okay. But that is what we want to see. Again, it's been too long that we've been asking for this with no help in terms of having a disparity done. So, because at this point,
I don't have a problem with that, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor.
As I said, I will
honestly,
bring it to you all and tell you what it will cost, and I don't have a problem in supporting that study.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Watson.
This is more of a comment than anything so that my constituents all know and you'll know the way I'm going to vote on this. We're all elected to represent those constituents in our district. I've reached out to as many people as I possibly can to reach out to those folks in my district to ask them what they think about this project, what they think about the projects in this list, those people who are so inclined to have the talent to look at the cost of some of the projects in this list, to think about if this is indeed to put 5 mills on people's property tax until 2047. That doesn't include, and I hear the mayor talking about we need to tackle all these different problems we've got, whether it be blight remediation, which is a terrible problem that we've got here that has both economic impact, crime impact, quality of life impact, health impact, law enforcement / public safety. We need to pay our police officers more. We've got drainage problems, and anyone who's still trying to get back into their home, or anybody who's spent a whole lot of time out of their home, and I know the mayor understands this as well, as many of us do, knowing folks that have been in this situation. My constituents are overwhelmingly telling me, do not vote for this. This is the wrong package at the wrong time. They haven't had enough time to digest this. I think there's a lot of great projects, and none of this is motivated from my standpoint of I'm not getting enough projects in my district. I'm not casting any aspersions on anybody. I had folks at the meeting that we finally had in my district last night where a guy came up and said, well, only 3% of the projects were in my district. If that's the way it goes, then that's fine. I mean, I see Old Hammond Highway as something we need to work on. Perkins Road, we need to work on. Lee Drive, holy cow. Anyone who's lived in Baton Rouge knows Lee Drive needs to be widened. These are serious projects that need to be done. I don't know if every project on here is an emergency to put this much tax burden on specifically property tax payers who feel like they're being unfairly targeted to pay for this project, that they don't understand why some of these projects are on here. But as a representative of those folks who have reached out to me to tell me what they want me to do, I'm just going to flat out say I can't vote for this. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to make a brief comment. Dr. Lorenz, I know you and the mayor and I have talked and spoken, and I really believe that we're at a point to where we're running out of a revenue stream. I mean, I really believe that. With the taxes that's passed and what you have on the millages as far as different agencies they have, you've got some got a lot of money, and they're living pretty comfortable as far as some of the agencies. But I just think we're getting to a point where we're running out of revenue stream, and we're going to get an emergency where we're going to really need it, and it's not going to be there. And so I discussed and we talked about looking at these agencies from A to Z and auditing and see who's got and try to redirect some of this money to some of these projects as far as infrastructure, whether it's flooding, whatever. I can't support this right now. I support the parish. It's something I think we need. But as far as residents in the district that I live in, they're not going to support it right now until we know we've exhausted other avenues and make sure that we're not just throwing a tax on the back of this parish. And so I'm not in support of it and won't be voting on it. Councilwoman Freiberg.
Is it appropriate this time to move?
Yes, ma'am. If you'd like to make a motion.
I would like to make a motion to place this on the ballot
Motion
in the fall.
approved by Freiberg.
And I'd like to just add that yesterday a number of us were at a BREC speaker series, and at that time the former mayor of Pittsburgh talked about what cities need to do to really change how they do business. And what he said is they have to be very intentional in what they do. He said intentionality is the point at which a city decides to be something other than what it's been traditionally. And I think we've waited far too long to make these improvements in the infrastructure of our city, and I think it's time that we do so now. It's certainly, I think, we need to give the voters of this parish the opportunity to look at this new list, to decide for themselves if these are projects. I think all of us have a few projects in our area, one or two. Most of us don't have more than a couple, but it's projects that need to be done. When you look at the accident list, when you look at what needs to be done to help move the traffic in this district, I think it's very important for our community, for the quality of life, to make improvements. And I think we certainly need to give the voters of this district the opportunity to vote this up or down. So I move that we place this on the ballot.
Okay, I got a motion to approve by Freiberg, second by Green. Mayor, would you like to make a comment? Councilwoman Banks, would you like to make a comment? I saw you walked up.
Yes, I do. I want to just say, I want to thank you all for this civil discussion that we've had around this issue. Oftentimes, the council and the administration, we often get a bad rap, but I will say that it's been a privilege and even a delight for me to have an opportunity to continue to have the lines of communication open. I recognize that all the time we may not agree on everything, but I certainly appreciate your respect in allowing me to come and make this presentation. In closing, let me say this real quickly. There have been 20 resolutions where the Metro Council called a sales tax or a property tax election on a parish-wide basis since 1995. 20 resolutions. And so I am merely asking, and some of you all may not have been here when all of those sales tax or property tax elections were allowed to be on the ballot. I'm just asking that you allow this to be on the ballot and that we demonstrate to the citizens of this community that we respect their right to make a choice, whether they want to move forward with this plan or whether they do not. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilwoman Banks?
Yes. We talk a lot about the overburden of taxes, of traffic, but in reality, in my opinion, the reason we have traffic issues is because of the fact that we're making everything go in one direction. All of the quality of life, whether it's housing, whether it's recreation, whether it's hospitals, everything is going in one direction. So the baseline would be to make sure that you have cars going in both directions. And so we know that the foundation for economic development is infrastructure, and that has to be an intention, as Ms. Freiberg said, an intention to build the northern part of the parish so you can have more cars going in that direction. It doesn't make sense to blame the traffic issues as needing new roads, because what you're doing is disincentivizing the northern part of the parish for the southern part of the parish. It's backwards. Also, I understand when Councilman Watson said it's not about the number of projects, but for me it is, because again, it shows where there is not a proper appropriation of an equity in the entire parish. I believe that to have buy-in, we needed to have all of our district meetings before this even made it to the ballot. There are a lot of projects on here that I didn't think about until this morning. I had an opportunity to speak with my residents and say, what is it that you all would like to see? If that had been an opportunity for me to say what the economic drivers that I wanted to be propelled in my district that would go along with those infrastructure needs, that would have been very helpful. That would have been the kind of buy-in. I also believe that prior to coming to the residents, if you're going to have a holistic plan, then you will have spoken with persons at the federal level, at the state level, and say, these are some of the projects we'd like. How can we work together? I like when someone mentioned about CATS working with, with synchronizing. I think all that's part of the big plan. I do agree that everyone should have the right to vote, but I think that I have a responsibility not to put matters before the people that I myself would not want before me. That does not cover the whole mantle of needs as it relates to just transportation. I'm not talking about public safety or any other things, but when you talk about the myriad of things that has to do with transportation, it should include public transportation in our buses. It should include the possibility of light rail. It should include the commuters and which directions people are going. It should also have the ability to foresee areas for major transportation opportunities in the future. I don't see that here. Again, when we talk about, I know the mayor said about the 20 resolutions, but I think everything has changed since 2016. I don't know I don't know how old I was, but probably didn't own a house and didn't care about what taxes were put on or anything like that. But every day, as an East Baton Rouge Parish School employee, I talk to people who say, I was supposed to retire this year, but my house flooded and I have to pay SBA off. I hear people all the time just talking about the overburdens, and just what we've been looking at with the Breck Zoo and what Scott Wilson mentioned, 16% of our property taxes are going to Breck Zoo. Those are the kind of redirection that I think that our due diligence afford us. And so it's not that I don't support the need for transportation, but I just believe that this project are a lot of roads that will lead us to nowhere. And I think that we really need to work on a comprehensive plan that will include our constituents, the different agency, other stakeholders, and then come back. I think haste makes waste, and you want your just can't do time? It. No, I'm good.
You're good.
But as it is, I just can't support it today.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mayor.
I thought I was.
You done spoken 3 times.
But you have to consider I won't be back, right? I have to address what the councilwoman has said. We have had collaboration with the federal, state stakeholders in this process. We absolutely have. And in fact, if you look at one of the sheets that we put out, we have talked about the fact that collaboration, even with local entities, many of them who are receiving those taxes that you referred to, is an integral part of this process as well. Whether it's CATS, whether it is BREC, all of this is part of the collaboration and the collaborative process. You know, there was a quote that says that we spend over $1,000 in a congestion tax, according to the business report. $1,000 that we lose individually because of traffic congestion. Now, the benefits of this are parish-wide. And everyone's trip, whether you live in North Baton Rouge, South Baton Rouge, East Side, West Side, will be less congested. With continued growth in our parish, we have to have new roads. The difference between building these projects and not doing so is 1,235,000 hours of congestion by the time we get to the year 2042. While some may have said, well, it's not enough, or I'm concerned about what's going on or not going on in my district, I have to tell you, and I say this in humility, that someone who is scheduled to be back in her home this weekend, thank God, I feel that too. I recognize I am a homeowner and I have to pay taxes as well. But when I think about Baton Rouge and when I think about this parish, I just don't think about Sharon Weston Broome. I think about all of us. And I think about how we enhance the quality of life for everyone, wherever they may live in this parish. This is not the end all to all of our challenges that we face. Absolutely not. But it is a beginning and part of the equation to move us forward. And that's where I stand. And so, once again, I hope I don't have to come back up here again.
That's okay.
But I felt compelled to share that with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Moroso.
Mayor, I'd like to be able to look you in. No, really what I wanted to do is be able to look at you and say, this has been a good, I wanted to echo what you were saying. This has been a very good exercise. I absolutely appreciate the time, value the time that we met together just, I guess Monday or weeks kind of go in, but I do appreciate it. I appreciate you coming to District 8 and District 9 and having it. I think it was your first public meeting. So I think it has been a very open and been very transparent procedure. But saying that and looking you in the eye, I'm going to be voting again. I talked to Dr. Lorenz about it. I even appreciate Dr. Lorenz. He's been very open about it. And Fred, my thing is, I think that flooding is one of the major issues. My most honorable colleague from District 2, she's not here. I have to agree with her totally. I don't think there's a lot of difference between the people in my district and the people in her district. That right now that people are scared because of flooding. People are still trying to get back into their houses. And I would encourage you that if this does fail, let's all get together like we've been doing and work together and see if we can come back with something, because I think infrastructure is very important. And let's see if we can come back with something that's maybe even better. That's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Wicker.
Mayor? No, I'm just kidding, Mayor. You're good. I think you said a lot of what I wanted to say, but I just want to take this moment. One of the best times for me is leaving town and going to visit my mother-in-law in Dallas, and there's one point in my trip that's sort of the worst time for me, and that's crossing back over into Louisiana when I hit our roads. And one of the most frustrating things to me is driving around our city, and I'm not sure how we're able or not able to really connect our infrastructure to the growth and the economic vitality of our community. I just think a lot of times we miss that, and I've heard a lot of conversation, and I agree. This is not a district issue. This is a Baton Rouge issue, y'all, because all of us use those roads. All of us are part of this connected community. And And I want to thank the mayor because she did take a lot of time. I know they're absolutely exhausted. They were in my district the other night and spent time just making sure that people had at least the opportunity to look at the projects and ask questions. The thing that I do like about it, and you know, it's been, y'all, a very, 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 very long time in this community since we've actually invested money into our rural infrastructure improvements, and now we're living with the results of that. And so most of us that are complaining that I drive down the street and I feel like I'm going to lose my car, you know, as a result of me driving down the street. I think one of the news medias actually did a whole segment where they drove some of our roads and put a cup of coffee on top of the dashboard to see how long it would take for it to just completely fall off the dashboard. I mean, y'all know it's ridiculous. And at some point in time, I think that we have to come to some understanding and agreement that it is part of government's role and responsibility to make sure that we take care of the infrastructure so that our community, our businesses, our citizens have an opportunity to live and have a great quality of life. I know that we don't always agree to, you know, how that's done and even when it's done. But we have not done anything to the point of we really taking care of our infrastructure in a very long time. We were hopeful, many of us, and I know that when we did the Green Light Plan, there was excited about the enhancement projects because there was an opportunity even for those smaller projects that we have been begging for a long time, those sidewalks improvements and all those things to really be included in there. Those things are hugely important still to our constituents. And so I appreciate the opportunity to even talk about tweaking the project and making sure that those things are in there. So I really do see this as an opportunity, y'all, for us to make a decision that's going to help move us in the right direction, and I will support it. I also believe that as elected officials, people elect us to represent them in the best way that we can. It does not mean that we know better than they do. It just means that they trust us to be able to sit and represent their voices. And when it comes to an opportunity for them to be able to speak and have the opportunity to go to the polls and speak for themselves, I think that we are compelled as elected officials to allow that democratic process to happen and let the people's voices be heard. Thank you.
Councilman Hudson.
Yeah, I'm just going to be real brief. Want folks in my district to know where I stand. I'm not going to be able to support this evening. But I guess before I get into it, I do want to also echo those sentiments, Mayor. It's been a great process, and I appreciate the really tough work that Fred came out and anytime you come out and talk about a tax in District 9, you're gonna have a tough time. And Fred, you did a good job, so I appreciate you doing
Fred
that.
lives there.
Yeah. But no, to the question of simply putting this in front of the voters and do we have an obligation to do that? Look, I believe we have a representative form of government. There's a reason why this proposal has to come before this council first, and it's because we have a representative form of government. My constituents are overwhelmingly telling me that they don't want the opportunity to vote on this. I hear from them some of the same concerns that Councilman Amoroso said about drainage. But also overwhelmingly, I hear some of the concerns that Councilman Wilson stated about some of our dedicated taxes and how those are set up. I cannot look my constituents in the face and tell them that we've done a good job of going through our budget and scrubbing all the waste and being as efficient as possible. So for that reason, I can't support this tonight, and I'd like to call for the question.
Okay, we had a motion by Freiberg to approve and a second by Green. We're going to go ahead and vote on the machines. Casey, if you go ahead and open machines, we'll be voting to approve item for approval.
Machines are open.
Item has failed.